Heart Out is sponsoring a 2023 Bahamas cruise open to all educators. Guests such as spouses, family, and friends are also welcome to attend. There is an amazing lineup of speakers, and you can book your PD at sea now by putting down a $200 deposit. Attend the Sail Away Party Thursday, July 6th in Port Canaveral at 6 p.m. in preparation for Cruising Friday. You will return Monday, July 10th at 8 a.m. Scan the QR code now to sign up. You don't want to miss it.
Hey, welcome to the TeacherGoals podcast. This is your host, Erica Terry. Super excited about tonight. We are talking one of my favorite topics, which is edupreneurship and educators having online businesses that allow you to make an impact as well as earn some extra money. And I have one of my favorite people when it comes to talking about having a business and being an edupreneur. There is none other that's better than Dr. Will. He has a podcast called The Dr. Will Show. And if you have your own business and are not tuning in, I mean, he brings in everyone. And so I'm super excited to bring him on so that we can get some tips, tools, and strategies that we can use to build businesses and make an impact in education as edupreneurs. But before we get there, you know, I love to know who we have with us. So if you haven't already done so, go ahead and say hi in the comments. Let us know where you're from, your role in education, and if you have some good movie recommendations, I want to hear them. I definitely am looking for something to tune into. So go ahead and put that in the chat. And while you're doing that, if this is your first time hanging out with us on Thursday evenings, welcome. We are excited to have you with us. And so I'm going to tell you really quickly kind of how we flow here at the TeacherGoals podcast. I will bring Dr. Will up. I have some questions for him. We're going to dive into a great discussion about edupreneurship. And while we're talking, feel free to go ahead and put your questions in the chat, because at the end of the interview, he's going to hang around and answer all of your questions. So be sure to put your questions in the chat, and I will make sure that we get to them at the end of the interview. Before I bring him on, I just want to say hi to a few people. We are worldwide here at TeacherGoals. And so we have Jamari, who is here from Indy. Hello, welcome. Lisa from Arkansas. Super excited that you were able to join us today. We have a math teacher from Brooklyn, Siobhan. Welcome to the TeacherGoals podcast. We have from India, Koramutla. Hello, welcome. We have a kindergarten teacher, Janelle. Welcome to the podcast. From Australia, we have Deolin. Hello, welcome. So excited that you all are hanging out with us today. And last but not least, I want to say hello to Aline from Brazil. Thank you all so much for being here. But I don't want to hold you too long. So I am going to go ahead and bring up Dr. Will so we could dive into our conversation tonight on how to make an impact as an edupreneur. Dr. Will, how are you?
Blessed. Hello, how are you doing? Thanks for bringing me on.
I am great. Super excited to have you on tonight. And so we are just going to go ahead and dive right in. I love to hear people's stories and hear their background in education. And so, just to start us off, can you tell us about your current role in education, how you got there, and how did you become an edupreneur?
I am an instructional technologist with a K through 12 school district, and what I do is I train teachers on how to use various technology tools that we purchase in the district, as well as bringing up things to teachers when they say, "Hey, I want to do this in my classroom." I also coach up teachers and work with the mindset, because when you do this work, you're dealing with the skill set and the mindset, right? And the
Yes.
mindset of dealing them. How does technology actually change once it hits to your classroom? Because we're looking for transformational change and not just here's a worksheet, go type in it. And so in
Yes.
doing that work, as well as an LMS administrator and district administrator for most of the software programs that we use. So my day is never the same, and I can be working in a classroom, I can be observing, I could be teaching, I could be training. So early this week, I was actually in a kindergarten class, and it was interesting to go in there and watch them, and then also look at the itty bitty furniture, and I'm like, where am I supposed to
You're
sit
right.
sit down here today? And so that's what I do with the school district. I got into this work because I had been presenting at different conferences prior to me getting the job.
Mm-hmm.
And crazy thing is, Eric Schenniger, he came to do a keynote speech at our Mecca conference, and so he got up in front of the audience. He said, "Hey, before I start today, I want to tell you, about a friend of mine. He is a Google expert, and anything you want to know about Google, talk to him." And so I kind of stood up a little bit and did my little Miss America wave to the crowd. And then the tech director at the time, I said, "Hey, man, you need to give me a job." And he said, "Yeah." And so 6 weeks later, I started working with the district.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, I love that. So you are you work for the district as a tech specialist, but also you have a very popular podcast, the Dr. Will Show, and you've created a movie. I mean, you've done so much in this world of edupreneur. So while we could be talking all things technology tonight, I brought you on to kind of talk more about the business side that's possible for being an educator. So, kind of
Mhm.
just tell us a little bit about how you got into this world of edupreneurship while you're still working in education.
Well, I have been presenting at all of these big conferences in the state. And I had someone approach me and say, "Hey, do you do this consulting stuff?" And I was like, "Yeah, I can do it." But I had like no idea where to start. So I get on the phone. I said, Eric, what do I do? What do I do?" And so he gave me some quick game on, you know, this is what you need to do. And nothing happened then, but maybe a year later, I was at that same Mecca conference, and I had an assistant superintendent from a school district in the state ask me, "Is this something that I do?" When I was like, "You mean like outside of my job?" He was like, "Yeah." And then he came to one of my sessions, and I kind of jokingly say, "Yo, is this a job interview?" He was like, "Yeah." And then once I was done with my session, he said, "We'll be in contact." And a few weeks later, he called me up and we talked about some things, and I sent him over a proposal and an invoice and got my first gig. And it was awesome to be doing the work that I normally do in my district. But
Yes.
of course, I got paid way more money for those 8 hours. And when I got that first check, and my first check was like uh, $2,300. And I was like, did I just get $2,300 doing what I normally do at work? I just did it here. in less than a whole day. I said, okay, this is a life that I want to live.
Yes.
And that's how I got started.
Yes, and I love that story because I love that you pointed out the fact that you basically got paid to do what you were already doing, right? So it's not like you had to create something new, you didn't recreate the wheel. As educators, we have so many skill sets, so many talents that we can utilize in order to build these businesses. And like in that one day, you made over $2,000, right? So even if you're just using those 3 personal days that most people have a year, that's still extra income that you can make. And you were definitely able to make that positive impact in the world of education. And so that's what we want to talk about tonight. But for someone that may be on and they're, not really familiar with the term edupreneur, or they're like, wait, you can get paid to do this? Let's start off by like defining, when we talk about edupreneurship, talk about what is an edupreneur, like how do we define that? What is that?
Well, I defined it as someone who is creating an education focused business rooted in making an impactful change.
Yes.
Right. So you're using an educational approach to, again, what I like to tell teachers, expand what you're doing in the classroom to a larger audience.
Mm-hmm.
And you're not doing it for the coin, even though the coin is important,
Yes.
but you're doing it again to make that impact, to make that change. And so how you approach the job is different from someone who's like, I'm trying to sell these shoes, and as many shoes as I can sell, I'm trying to sell, because it's all about profit.
Right.
And so this is sort of like mixing that purpose and profit at the same time.
Ooh, yes, I love that. Mixing purpose and profit at the same time. So yes, so we're gonna dive into like some tips, tools, and strategies to make this impact as an entrepreneur. But I love how you just put it. So how do you find like that passion, that purpose? Like I said, we have to teach the whole curriculum, right? When you're a teacher. And so, if you try to approach it where you're trying to teach everything, I have found and worked with people that approach does not work well for most people. So, how do you really tap into that purpose that you were just talking about?
Look at what, we hear about the why a lot. So I don't want to just like overdo the why, but you want to tap into that reason, that drive, that energy of why you are an educator. And then you want to look at what you're doing at your capacity at your job, because you want the receipts, as they say in the street. So you want to look at what you're doing and what you're doing well, and what drives you, what you get that energy from. And then you want to look at your what. And what I mean by your what is, what do you do that is unique, that is different, that brings in outcomes. And then you want to look at how that ties into solving one problem. So when you mention, we do a lot of stuff with our job, but you can't do it all. We ain't Walmart where you can go in and buy a TV, groceries, clothes, and food, and then even go to the deli and buy a little something. We can't, we ain't all of that. You're trying to solve one problem. And then from that one route, then you can kind of, once you get the success, kind of branch, but that branch must still be rooted in that one. So one example I want to give you is Dr. Catlin Tucker. If you know anything about Dr. Catlin Tucker, it is all about blended learning. Everything is blended learning. All her books, blended learning. But then she'll bring in blended learning with UDL. Now, the UDL is a little spin, but it's still blended learning.
Right.
She is not out here talking about blended learning and then all of a sudden, boop, I'm jumping the shark, his financial literacy.
Yeah.
That's not what she's doing. And everything is because what you want to do is not only solve one problem, but you want to build that expertise and that
Mm-hmm.
know, like, and trust factor, and
Mm-hmm.
then have that thing on people's minds that when your name comes up in conversation at a conference or in some meeting, you want blended learning. You
Yes.
don't want people to be confused by what you do, right? And so keeping that one problem helps you really be able to build also a methodology around
Mm-hmm.
what you're doing, because you want to have that IP, intellectual property, that methodology about what you're doing, because that allows you to build in processes, allows you to scale, and allows you to create this whole curriculum around what you're doing, so that if you want to, you get to a point you can hire other people and you just give them your process for doing
Mm-hmm.
what you're doing. They're just replicating what you're doing. It's just like when you go to a McDonald's, a Big Mac in Houston is supposed to taste the same way a McDonald's in Toledo, a Big Mac in Toledo, because they've
Mm-hmm.
created this process where everything is supposed to be the same. And so you want to make sure you are creating that methodology in doing that, because that helps you, because you have this thing down to a science. You're not making this stuff up as you go. And so you really want to make sure that, again, you're solving that one problem. You're going off the receipts, meaning this is what you do at work, right? So
Mm-hmm.
you have the expertise, you have the familiarity with what you're doing, and that's what you want to start and you want to build from. And you also want to look at the market as well, because there are some things that you may be good at, but ain't nobody paying for, right? So if ain't nobody buying, no need to be trying.
I love it. If nobody's buying, no need to be trying. So let's talk about these receipts. So you said start off by solving one problem. So you're finding like this one topic. And within that topic, so you used blended learning as your example. So you're going to start off with one problem related to blended learning, or one problem related to I hear a lot about the science of reading now, right? So, one problem related to this topic, and you said bring receipts. So, a lot of times when I work with people or when I'm talking with people, they feel like they don't have those receipts, or they can't just use their own teaching experience and results that they've gotten from their classrooms as receipts to launch a business off of. So, any guidance related to that, or any tips, or words of wisdom about where do you get these receipts from?
Well, you have to use what you have experience with. You have to use what you have success with. You have to use those stories, those examples, that work product that you have done as a teacher.
Yes.
So, and I tell teachers all the time too, take advantage of every PD your district will pay you to go to,
Yes.
even if it's free. I know, I know sometimes y'all want to go to that PD. I see sometimes when people got to come see me to look on some of people's faces, but you need to take advantage of everything. You go to that Haggerty training, you go to that Saxon training, you go to all of that stuff, that I read it training, because all of that is just giving you more knowledge and more tools in your toolkit for you to turn around
Yes.
and consult with, to build a
Yes.
business around, because you now have that knowledge. And again, those receipts on how do I implement it. And then your receipts come from, well, how do you do it? Because even though every teacher at a school, let's say, for example, we use Ready and iReady. So
Mm-hmm.
every teacher has that same curriculum, but not every teacher is going to implement it the same way.
Mm-hmm.
And so how you implement it, and how you work with your students, and how you put all of your materials together, how do you put your centers together, how do you integrate technology in using Ready, those are your receipts. And
Yes.
that is what you need to build your business around. And that's what you need to use, because one, you have to be credible, right? You have to be credible, you have to be comfortable, and you can't fake it, right? So I don't
Mm-hmm.
like fake it till you make it. I say make it till you make it,
All right.
right? And making it is about you putting in the work.
Yes.
And once you have done the work, now you have laid down the groundwork for you to go ahead and really make it. And
Yes.
so don't get out here, just like I saw some people during the pandemic, who you had never saw talk about online learning. Now they on Twitter talking about, I'm speaking about online learning. Look, you weren't doing that 6 months ago.
Yes. It's so I love it. Make it till you make it. So that what I'm hearing you say is, and I'm trying to connect all of the pieces. So we're starting off by solving this one problem. So if you feel passionate about an area, don't just jump right out there. Really zone in, utilize the strategies, put in the work. And then once you get those results, it's those results that you can then take and build your business off of. And so when you're building that business, how do you make an impact? How do you connect and get your work out there?
Present at conferences, right? No one will know who you are until they know who you are. Just like Apple and other people make a commercial until word of mouth comes out, and then you become an Apple fanboy or fangirl, as they say. You have to present at conferences, because once you present at ISTE and TCEA and FETSI and different conferences that may be in your local area, or conferences related to your specialty. So if you are in CTE, there's ACTE, Learning Forward, ASCD, all these conferences, you get yourself out there and you present. And what it helps you is not only to build your brand and build your face front outside and getting yourself out there in front of audiences, but guess what you're doing? You are practicing. Mm-hmm. So each time you're able to deliver a workshop, each time you're able to deliver a training, you're just learning more and more on how do I deliver it, taking in audience responses. Oh, I can do this better. How you do that? It's just like a comedian. So when you turn on HBO or you turn on Netflix and you watch a comedian, it may be fresh to you, but that ain't the first time they done told that joke. Yeah. Those people done hit the road working them jokes out, right? Taking feedback from the audience. Oh, that ain't working. Well, I need to tweak this to make sure that once they had that special, that everything was right. So you got to hit that conference circuit, and you got to get out there and you got to put on your routine, so to speak, so you can get the feedback. You can see what's working. You can see the impact that you're doing from there. And another thing is you need to create content. Yes. So just like you have this podcast and I have my podcast, you can put on a podcast. You can have a YouTube channel in which you share different tips. You can share video tutorials. You can have a blog that you actually write about things. But that's another way for you to, again, get your expertise out there, to get it out there so people can check it. They can search you. They can see what's going on and get on social media and make connections. Share what you're doing and network, because you never know when a job is going to come from that. Last year, I actually got a job because someone reached out to somebody and said, hey, we want you to do a Schoology training. And that person said, I'm not your guy, but Dr. Will is.
Okay.
And I was like, oh, yes.
Right.
That was a great summer. And then I got another job because this person, again, knew of me from Twitter.
Right.
And so you want to be visible. And then you want to be putting in that work, because I got noticed because I was at the conferences and people kept seeing me at the conferences. They kept going to my sessions and they could see, okay, he knows a little something. And so that's what you want to do. You want to always doing that, because there's no such thing as if you build it, they will come. Because if they don't know you, right, and they don't know business is open, then ain't nobody coming. So you really got to get out there and let people know who you are.
So I can hear someone right now, like I hear them, even though we are virtual, saying, where do I get the time for all of this? Like, I already gotta make it till I make it. So I'm in my classroom working out these strategies, getting my receipts together. Now you're telling me that I need to be at conferences, I need to create content. Like, I don't have time for all of this. So what do you say to that person who right now is like, I would do all of this, but I just don't have time?
You got to find the time, right? If this is something that you want to do, you'll find the time. And here's the thing about some school districts, not all, but there are school districts where they are normally, quote unquote, depending on your job. So if you may be a reading specialist, or you are K through 12 teacher who focuses on reading, they may automatically every year send you to the reading conference. So submit a proposal to present at that reading conference.
Yes.
If your district has a rule where if you are selected to present at the conference, we'll let you go. Then if you know that's going to happen, go put them out there and get to going.
Mm-hmm.
And if need be, take the personal. I know we don't want to do that. Because we ain't got that many. But if need be, you got to do that. Because the main thing is getting yourself out there. Because anyone that we know on Twitter or know on Facebook, and they have a Facebook group, or you see them tweeting out, hey, I'm going to be speaking here, I'm going to be speaking there, I'm going to be speaking there. They all started at conferences, right? They didn't become keynote speakers and all those things. They just woke up and it just fell on their lap. They had to hit the streets, and people had to go, oh, okay, you good. And then networking to where someone approaches them and say, hey, can you do this?
Right.
And then you take advantage of that opportunity.
Yes, I love that. And I would also say utilize other people's platforms as well. So get on these podcasts that are out there, or, guest posts for blogs that are already out there. Those are ways that you can do that, right from your home. You can do that, on the weekends. You don't have to travel. And so if you do feel pressured for time, I would add to everything Dr. Will said, and, to utilize other people's platforms, that can get you in front of thousands of people. So definitely do that as well. This is so good. And so one action to implement tomorrow, someone that is, watching this, they maybe have felt like they wanted to start a business, but never knew like where to start. And they're watching this and feeling motivated, like, okay, I can do it. What is one action that they can implement tomorrow?
They need to look within themselves and figure out who they are, what they are, and what they have to offer. And to quote Gary Vee, he says that what you do has to come so naturally to you that it's like breathing.
Ooh.
Right? So if you are a gifted writer, then you can write curriculum and sell it, whether it be on TPT, or you can sell it to school districts, or you can write curriculum as a contract trainer for ed tech companies. You can write a book, whether it be companies like Solution Tree or ASCD, or you can self-publish, which I like because whenever possible, cut out the middleman, get the money yourself. But if you are a natural speaker, you can be a keynote speaker, you can be a trainer, you can moderate panels at conferences, because I've had people approach me about doing that. So look at those things that come naturally to you. So I'm not asking you to do something that does not fit who you are, right? Because this should be work, but this should not be climbing a mountain, right? Because if it ain't working for you, if it doesn't fit what you naturally do, you want to let that go. So that's why I tell people, start with who you are, that emotional intelligence of knowing who you are and what you do well. And that's the first thing that you need to do. And don't compare yourself to other people. Don't get into your Facebook groups. Don't get out on Facebook. So, oh man, these people speaking. Why somebody want to hear from me? You work on you. And by the way, someone sat in a meeting and said we should make a movie about sharks that turn into tornadoes. Okay. Now I want you to think about that. They made like 6 Sharknadoes. Someone said that's a great idea. So don't ever think that you don't have a good idea, that you can't make it.
Right.
People are making money doing all kinds of things. You just want to make sure, again, you are bringing value.
Yes.
And that you are making sure that you are bringing transitional and change. So when I consult around teaching with a learning management system. And what I do is to simplify the process and take away the overwhelm of the tech. And make sure that when the teachers leave my session, they know how to teach from the LMS using the tools and the curriculum that their district already gives them. And so I don't get fancy with it. I ain't trying to be special and sprinkle nothing on it. It's about when you leave here with me, tomorrow, you're going to be able to do something.
Right. That you couldn't do today.
And that's how I do my consulting.
I love it. Keep it simple. Find that topic that you're good at, that you love talking about. I tell people all the time, you're building the business, you're creating the life that you love. You don't want to be stuck talking about a topic that, you can't stand. So make sure that, it fits your life. And I love all the advice that you gave. And so for people that are like, let me learn more about Dr. Will, let me check out the Dr. Will show so I can get some more edupreneur tips, where can they find you?
They can find me on Simplecast. You can also find me if you get on Apple Podcast and just do a search for the Dr. Will Show. You'll see my podcast there. Hey, subscribe. Right.
Yes, subscribe to TeacherGoals while you're there too.
and give me a review.
Yes.
Because I'm trying to get Jay-Z on the show. So check it out and hear from educators who are really doing the work. Now, every now and then I do some bonus episodes that may cover an education topic because I am an educator, and I do bring on people who are entrepreneurs who are not educators because they are coming in with a different skill set from their business perspective.
Yes.
Right. So they're coming in talking about stuff like getting your DUNS. And if you don't know their DUNS is your business credits.
Yes.
Right. And so having people to come in and talk about those things, have you go, okay, because a lot of things, what I'm gonna tell you, and I know some of you may not think this is true, but the easiest thing you're gonna do is what you're gonna build your business around, because you should be building your business around what you already do every day. The hard part is setting up the business, because you need to get that thing incorporated. You got to get that thing, registered with your state. You got to get your EIN number. And again, you're talking about payroll and if you hire other people, but you need bookkeeping, because you got to keep all your receipts and all things together, because the tax man ain't no joke. You know what I'm saying? Because, I got the $2,300 my first check, but they don't take no taxes out of that.
Right.
So the government gonna want their money. So you want to make sure you understand the tax game, and you need a CPA. No H&R Block. You need a CPA who can break that down, the tax code, with you and help you out to learn how you got to do this. So that's the hard part of getting your business together. The easy thing is sort of figuring out, and I know it's easy for me to say this, but that's going to be the easiest thing you're going to do, is what you're going to build your business around, because you should, again, be doing this around what you do every day. Because some of you teachers out here are like, what should I be doing? But you are great at classroom management.
Yeah.
You're that teacher when that dude, that little boy, little girl act crazy in somebody else's class, they send that student to your class. So if you are like that, that's a business, classroom management. How are you able to reach those kids when they can't do it? So
Yes.
that's a hint, right? That's a hint that you have something gold. So
Mm-hmm.
look at your receipts always, and don't do a lot of quote unquote creating. Document.
Ooh.
You ain't gotta create no process. Document what you already doing.
All right. That is good right there. That is good. And I love it. Find that topic that people are already gravitating to you towards. Like if they're coming to you to learn how to do something, or the principal is sending somebody into your classroom to watch how you do something, that's your thing. That's your it. And so definitely use that when you're thinking about where to build your business around. And I love all of those business tips that you can get on the Dr. Will show, because those systems are so important when building your business. And so I have learned so much. We have plenty of questions in the comments and good feedback. So I just want to thank you so much for joining us tonight. This was such a great conversation.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you for having me here.
Yes. And so we are going to jump right into the questions. For those of you that may have been holding off, now is the time to go ahead and put your questions in the chat, and I'm going to start bringing them up. First of all, Laura asks, is this session being recorded? Yes, you can find all of our podcast episodes on the Teacher Goals YouTube channel, as well as on Facebook, anywhere that is recorded. And then also in 2 weeks, it will be on the platform. So Apple, Google, wherever you listen to podcasts, you can find it there as well. Macy said, come on with those catchphrases. I love it. And I have been knowing Dr. Will for a couple of years now, and he has plenty of them. So if you love those catchphrases, definitely check out the Dr. Will show. All right. And so Leslie says, I'm not worried about time. I'll make the time. Yes, Leslie, I love that attitude. Where do I find the conferences? Good question.
Well, if you're into ed tech, like I am, ISTE, which you can, just do a Google search for ISTE. But if you're on Twitter, you can follow them at ISTE as well. Then there's FETC, FETC. They have a great conference that, again, not everything is about ed tech, but it does have a lot of ed tech focused sessions. TCEA is in Texas, and it's in Texas every year because it's the Texas Computer Education Association. And then, conferences like ASCD and ISTE and others, they sort of move from year to year to different cities across the country. So you can easily, if you get on Twitter, once you develop your PLN, we'll see a lot of these, even the people who you may follow or coming down. Well, I'm going to be presenting at this conference. And then some conferences like Teach Better, they put on their own conference. And so you also want, and then in doing that, pick the right conference for you. Because not all conferences are created the same, not only in focus, but in tenor and in vibe. Right. So I used to love ISTE. Used to love it. I was like, yes, I'm in Disneyland. And I went to ISTE this summer, and I was like, oh, this is just too many people for me. So I don't know if he's going back. Because I've gone to the ISTE where they've had 20,000 people. And so this time I think it was like 14. So I was like, you know what? I want something a little smaller in the future, because I'm at a point, for me, it's not about meeting a whole bunch of people. It's about meeting the right people. So I want a smaller community conference so I can make sure that I have the time to sit down and fellowship, and not only walk away with gems myself, but further develop relationships so that we can collaborate on future projects. Or again, if someone approaches them and say, hey, can you do this? And they can't, they'll go, oh, well, Dr. Will can do that. Let me make that introduction.
Yes. And so to add to that, I love all of those suggestions you gave, but I would also suggest number one, teach your heart out, right? I got to plug that because we are collaborating with them. So if you have not looked into the Teach Your Heart Out conference, we're going to be cruising this summer. So go to teachergoals.com/teach your heart out. And you can get more information about that. But also, check your state, your department of education in your state. I have been in several different states. All of the departments of educations typically offer multiple conferences a year. And they, if you sign up for their newsletter, you will get those alerts and they'll tell you when they're open for you to submit a proposal. So I would say start there, especially if you're brand new. Maybe you want to get some practice in before you go to some of those big national conferences. And so I would recommend starting with your state Department of Education, getting on their newsletter, and they will send you plenty of information about the conferences that they offer. So yes, and then another question that I saw, and with this one, however comfortable you feel, you might not want to give all of your numbers. This might be like a private conversation, but this might be like some consulting or yeah, but anything you feel comfortable sharing when it comes to like your rates, or even if you don't want to share the specific rates, how do you establish those rates when you're presenting like with schools and districts? Any advice about establishing your rates?
Well, everything has to be something that you are okay with and you can live with. Mm-hmm. Right. And it's important to understand this. And Angela Myers said this in my documentary, The Edupreneur. They're not paying you for your time. They're paying you for your years of experience and your expertise. Mm-hmm. So don't get caught up in this is my hourly rate. Now, if you want to say this is my hourly rate, that's fine. But don't look at that as, oh, if I'm going to do something for an hour, I get paid $150 an hour. Mm-mm. Put some more respect on them numbers, because you don't want to lowball yourself, because that could impact your next check. Because someone can easily contact that conference person and says, oh, let's say Charles, Charles Lau, I hope I'm saying your name correctly. He presented at our conference, and what did y'all pay him? And that's where they approach you with it. So make sure you have, my lowest rate is $3,000. That's it. That's I ain't doing nothing below the 3. Now, if it's something virtual and it's like, oh, you want me for an hour to do a little something virtual, that's a little different, because I don't have to do anything. I don't have to get up. Well, I'm waking up, but I'm not leaving the house.
Right.
I'm not traveling. I'm not packing. I'm just popping into my home office. I'm going to do it. Now, I will negotiate something lower for that just because of that. I also don't do anything free for a company. Right. So I know Erica. Erica called me. I'm there. But if you are a conference, you are a company, and you call me, I'm sending an invoice. I'm not doing anything for you for free. And sometimes people like to say, well, what about exposure? I got a podcast. I don't need you for exposure. You can create a YouTube channel, your own website, a blog. So I don't do stuff just to say, like, these ain't the old days where you needed gatekeepers.
Right.
You don't need that. You be like Chance the Rapper, who does not have a record deal with anybody. So you don't have to do that. So I say everything is going to be personal. about what you charge. Because I know some people getting 10 grand for the day.
Mm-hmm.
And hey, I love that. But I'm just saying that my bottom lowest
Right.
is 3. And then we're talking about who they are, because some organizations, their budget, again, ain't the same as other folk. So if we can have that conversation and I'm feeling like, okay, I really need to be there, and their budget is what it is, and I don't feel like I'm being taken advantage of,
Right.
3 is my lowest. But you just have to figure out what you want to do. But also, this is where the Twitter game comes in handy, because you get to meet other educators who are doing this work.
Mm-hmm.
Now, you need to talk to them about their rates too,
Yes.
because you need to know what's going out there. Now, you can't come out the gate expecting Dr. Tucker money, but you don't want to get sucker money either.
I love it. And you also have to think about too, just some considerations. How many people are you working with? Is this a one day, or are there follow-up? If you have a book, have you sold so many books along with, your engagement? And so there are many factors that you have to consider. But I definitely agree. It's so important to network and surround yourself with other people that are doing that work, because I will say, and Dr. Will, you can tell me if this has been your experience as well, educators are some of the most sharing people. Edupreneurs, like everyone I've reached out to, has always helped me out so much. Like I remember years ago when I was starting my first podcast, Class from the CEO, like I did not know Dr. Will at all, and kind of reached out to him like, hey, you got this podcast. Like, how do you do it, right? What equipment are you using? And I mean, everyone that I reached out to was so free with sharing information. Like in this education community, we want everyone to be successful. Like that's why we're educators. So definitely surround yourself with the right people and network, and you will get those questions answered. So I love that. And that's all that I see. And so I just want to say thank you for Jamari. Love you guys. We love you too. Lisa said, great job. Thank you so much. And I just want to thank everyone in the TeacherGoals community for hanging out with us tonight. We appreciate all that you do in education, all that you're doing for your students, and we value you so much, and we value you taking this hour to hang out with us. And next week, we will be back next Thursday at 7 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. I hope to see all of you there. We have Dr. Kafele coming next week, so super excited about that. And we will see you there. Have a good night, everyone.